Welcome back, Year 7. We are on lesson 3 of our Ice on the Land topic today, and we're going to be looking at one of the most noticeable features that a glacier makes, and that's called a corrie. The first thing you need to do, please, is make sure that you have watched the video that is linked on Show My Homework. It's on the BBC Bite Size website. It's a 3-minute long video, and it's a really nice summary of all of the things that we've talked about in terms of glaciers so far. So how they're made, what they do, and the features that they create. So make sure you pause this video, watch that video, and then come back to this one. Okay, so in these pictures, you have some of the different features or things, landscapes that glaciers can create, and they're pretty spectacular, I think you'll agree. They are only made by glaciers, so you'll only find these in places that were once covered in these huge sheets of ice and huge rivers of ice. So the one that we're going to be concentrating on today is called a corrie. And if you can understand how a corrie is made, you'll also be able to understand how an erect and a pyramidal peak are made. So these are the 3 that we're concentrating on today. Some of the others below we will look at in our next few lessons. So a corrie then, as you might be able to tell from the pictures at the bottom of this screen, a corrie is kind of a big scooped out hollow that you would find up in the mountains in an area that has been glaciated, an area that's been covered in these glaciers. If you've ever been to the Lake District or Snowdonia or most parts of the Scottish mountainous areas, you would have seen these. You might not have noticed them, but now that you know what they are, they're pretty difficult to miss. So a corrie, its basic description is an armchair, almost like you could sit in it. If you're an absolute giant, you could sit in it. And it's kind of like an armchair shaped depression or a kind of a sunk bit, a cutout bit on a hillside, which has got a steep back wall. So if you look at these 2 pictures here, around the edge of your water in the middle, which is sometimes called a tarn, you've got really steep, rocky edges, almost like it's been scooped out by a massive spoon or something like that. So it has steep back edges. If you tried to walk up these, it would be a lot of effort. And in a lot of places you wouldn't be able to because it's just sheer rock. So you'd need that crampons or something to be able to climb your way up it. And in the bottom of it, you quite often have this little lake that you can see in both of the pictures that I'm showing you here, and that is called a tarn or a corrie lake. So here's another example of a corrie, and this is in a place that is still covered in ice and still covered in snow. So it could be somewhere like the Swiss Alps. And here's another example that is more similar to the sorts that you would see in the UK here. So how a corrie is made is actually not that difficult to understand. The first thing that happens, as we know at the start of an ice age, when your temperature gets a little bit colder than it used to be, you start to get a lot more snow, and that snow will collect in the side of a mountain. So as you know, mountains aren't perfectly smooth. They do have little kind of dips in them. So where you've got one of these dips, you will get lots of snow that builds up, and over years and years that snow adds on top. You get layer after layer, and because you don't have warm summers anymore in your ice age, that snow doesn't melt, it doesn't go anywhere, so you just get layer after layer after layer of snow built up. And over time, the snow that falls on top of the existing snow starts to push out all of the air, and it turns it into something called firn, which is like when you squeeze snow together to make a snowball, and eventually it will turn into ice. Once you get more and more ice and a bigger block of ice, you start to actually get your glacier, and that glacier does 2 things. So if you remember from last lesson, what a glacier does is as it slides along and melts a tiny bit, that meltwater will get into all of the different cracks in the rock around it, and then it will freeze again, and it will pick out or pluck out different rocks from the bottom, from the mountain around it. That's called plucking. The other thing that it does is with all the rocks that it's plucked out, It then uses those rocks to scrape away at the bottom and scratch away almost like a cat would with its claws, and that is called abrasion. So through plucking out the rocks at the back here and scooping and scraping away with the rocks at the bottom, you start to basically scoop out or dig out a much bigger hole or hollow in the side of the mountain. It's bigger and bigger and deeper, and the back part of it here, this back wall, gets even more steep until eventually you get your corrie shape. Now, because there isn't much erosion happening at the front, because the glacier has to work really hard to get up and over this bump here at the front, there's not much erosion happening. The glacier doesn't have the energy for it, so it doesn't erode very much, and it leaves that kind of snouty bit at the front, and that's called a rock lip. And the rock lips are really important because when the glacier melts, which it will do at the end of the ice age, remember about 11,000 years ago, all of the ice that covered the UK melted, it left the water, the meltwater, behind. All that water from the ice didn't just evaporate into the air, it left it behind, and that is what makes the tarns that you see in Corries. So they are quite often massive lakes that strange people love to go swimming in, even in the middle of winter when the water's about 3 degrees. So that is how a corrie is formed. If you want to rewind the video, listen to this explanation again, I absolutely would recommend that. There's lots of other explanations on YouTube as well. And if you take a look at the information that I have put onto Show My Homework, there's some information from the textbook there too. So take a look at all of that to make sure that you really understand how it's created. And that is because your task for today, and this is going to take you the majority of today's lesson time, is to use the information from this video and the bite-sized website which you've already used at the start of today. I would like you to create a storyboard to explain how a corrie is made. So we've created 3 different templates on Show My Homework to help you. You need to pick the one that looks the right level of difficulty for you, the one that you look at and you think, yeah, I could have a go at that. It wouldn't be super easy, but I could definitely have a pretty decent go. So we have one here which is no pictures and no words, so that's our real challenge level. We also have one that has got some words to help you fill in your explanations, but you would need to put them into proper sentences. And there's a few pictures there to get you going on your diagrams. And there's also one that has most of the explanation there. You just need to fill in some of the missing words and put in the diagrams. So select your correct template, use this video and the links that are on Show My Homework to help you do it. You are not going to be submitting this today, but you will be submitting this and something else that you are going to do next week. So make sure it's a really good piece of work that you are proud of. As always, any questions, please email your teachers, and we really look forward to seeing these next week.